Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are under fire from all sides as the government faces an avalanche of criticism over its treatment of Britain's most vulnerable. In what many are calling the Labour Party's greatest betrayal yet, the controversial decision to cut the £300 winter fuel payment for around 10 million pensioners has been met with widespread outrage. The elderly, already grappling with rising energy costs, are now bracing for a potentially deadly winter. Some are predicting excess deaths as a direct result of this heartless move. The backlash against Labour's handling of pensioner welfare has hit fever pitch. Susan Mensforth, a 79-year-old pensioner from the freezing hills of Buxton, North Derbyshire, is among those speaking out. "Labour hates us," she blasted in a furious interview with GB News, visibly distressed by the looming winter months. "We're freezing in our homes. I've worked all my life, paid into the system, and now I'm forced to choose between heating and eating. It's utter cruelty." Mensforth's words are a stark reflection of the fury being felt by millions of pensioners across the country as they find themselves abandoned by a government they once trusted. Mensforth's hometown regularly sees temperatures drop to -10 degrees, and she is not alone in her fears. Pensioners across the UK are feeling the squeeze, with energy prices continuing to rise and the prospect of freezing homes becoming all too real. "This will lead to excess deaths," she warned gravely. "I belong to an organisation called Silver Voices, and we're all terrified. We're cutting back on essentials, and some of us are already deciding whether to eat or heat. It's a grim reality that has alarmed charities like Age UK, which has warned that cutting the winter fuel payment will push even more elderly people into poverty, putting their lives at risk." This drastic decision comes amidst an economic storm created by Labour's own policies. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has defended her cuts, claiming that slashing pensioner benefits was the right decision in light of the £22 billion deficit Labour needs to address. But this justification has done little to quell the public outrage. Reeves is being widely condemned for targeting Britain's most vulnerable citizens, with critics arguing that these cuts will not only deepen the poverty crisis, but could lead to more pensioners dying from hypothermia or malnutrition. The controversy has spiralled further as it emerges that Labour is also planning to cut the tax-free lump sum retirees can withdraw from their pension pots. Currently, savers can take up to 25% of their pension tax-free, but under Reeves's proposed changes, this limit could be slashed from £268,275 to just £100,000. The move is expected to raise up to £2 billion for Labour's coffers, but it has sparked fresh fears among pensioners who see their retirement savings as their only lifeline. Stephen Cameron, of pension provider Egon, warned of a major outcry if the changes are implemented. Many people have planned their retirements on the assumption that they could withdraw a quarter of their pension pot tax-free. To change that now would be an absolute betrayal of those who have worked and saved all their lives, he said. The financial sector is already seeing a surge in pensioners seeking advice about early withdrawals, fearing that their future plans will be derailed by Labour's relentless tax raids. The fear is not just limited to winter fuel payments and pension withdrawals. The scandal surrounding Labour's economic strategy extends to their public sector pay rises. Shadow Business Secretary Kevin Hollinrake issued a stark warning on GB News, accusing Rachel Reeves of handing out huge public sector pay rises without demanding any productivity improvements. They've given pay rises to train drivers, nurses and public sector workers, but they haven't asked for anything in return. This is going to destroy the economy, Hollinrake cautioned. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, IFS, backs up this claim, with their report suggesting that Reeves may need to implement a £25 billion tax hike to meet her budget promises. What does this mean for Britain's pensioners? It's clear that Labour's economic strategy is out of control, with policies that seem determined to punish the elderly and working class alike. The elderly, many of whom live on fixed incomes, are now facing the terrifying prospect of further tax raids. National insurance, pensions, and even inheritance tax could all be on the chopping block as Labour scrambles to cover the growing economic hole created by its reckless spending. Amid these financial nightmares, the housing market is also reeling from Labour's Renters' Rights Bill, spearheaded by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. The bill aims to ban no-fault evictions and implement rent caps, but landlords and property experts are warning that it could decimate the rental market. Nigel Farage, a property owner himself, has admitted that Labour's proposed laws may force him to sell his rental properties. "This is a huge mistake. If they pass this, I'll be selling my properties, and I won't be the only one," he said in a recent interview. His sentiments are shared by landlords across the country, who fear that the bill could drive up rents, shrink the supply of available homes, and leave both landlords and tenants worse off. While Labour paints these changes as necessary for social justice, critics argue that the party is out of touch with the real needs of the British people. The pensioner vote, led by campaigner David Pinless, has become one of Labour's most vocal opponents. Pinless accuses Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves of hating pensioners and warns that their policies could lead to more than just financial ruin. "Do we really trust this government to administer assisted dying?" he asked in an interview with GB News, pointing to Labour MP Kim Leadbeater's proposed assisted dying bill. Pinless fears that, in the hands of a broken, overstretched NHS, the bill could open the door to more abuse and neglect of the elderly. The assisted dying bill has added another layer of complexity to the growing scandal around Labour's treatment of pensioners. While some see the bill as a compassionate step forward, others worry that it's a dangerous move in a country already struggling to care for its ageing population. Age UK has voiced concerns about the timing of the bill, especially when combined with cuts to pensioner benefits. Millions of older people could be facing disaster this winter, and instead of helping them, the government is talking about assisted dying. "It's a chilling message," said one charity representative. Meanwhile, Labour is also dealing with mounting pressure from its own political ranks. Internal divisions within the party are growing as MPs begin to question Keir Starmer's leadership. Lee Anderson, a former Tory MP who defected to Reform UK, blasted the current government as a busted flush. Speaking on GB News, Anderson argued that Labour is driving voters away with its out-of-touch policies. "True Conservatives have left the Tories for Reform UK because they see the writing on the wall. Labour is just as bad, if not worse. They're losing their grip," he said. Anderson's prediction that Kemi Badenoch could win the next Tory leadership contest adds further fuel to the fire, as the Conservative Party also grapples with its own internal chaos. As Labour's scandals pile up, it's becoming increasingly clear that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are fighting a losing battle. Their policies are not just unpopular, they are seen as an outright attack on the British public. Pensioners, renters, small business owners, and even Labour's own supporters are beginning to wonder whether the party has any idea how to manage the country's growing crises. This winter, with the country on the brink of economic collapse and millions of pensioners left to fend for themselves in freezing homes, the Labour Party's leadership faces its biggest test yet. Can they fix the mess they've created, or are we witnessing the slow implosion of a government that promised so much but delivered so little?